would you say that based on me providing you with that information, that would warrant an impeachment investigation?
Congressman, when you say that we have to preserve our credibility, I think you would agree.
Can you answer the question, sir?
He's trying to answer the question. Your time has expired.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America. Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Want to see a grown man have a temper tantrum? Congressman Dan Goldman was in the House Judiciary Committee last week, and that's exactly what happened. He didn't get his way in the committee, either with the witness, Professor Jonathan Turley, or with the acting chair of the committee, Congressman Andy Biggs, and he basically threw a hissy fit. It's right on brand from the congressman who is the heir to the Levi's empire, with a silver spoon in his mouth, used to getting his way, and thinking he's the smartest person in the room at all times, which, by the way, 9 times out of 10, turns out not to be the case. We're going to look at this interaction between these three figures, but before we get to all of that, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows, and if you like what you're seeing here in this or any other video on the channel, smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really, really good stuff. Because all that's going to help this channel grow via the YouTube algorithm.
What?
Feed me!
Okay.
As always, gang, thanks so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. We could get there by the end of this month if you guys keep on doing what you're doing, and I am so thankful that you do. And for all you newbies out there who may be finding the channel for the first time, I'm glad you're here, and I hope that this video earns a subscription as we watch this contentious interaction between Dan Goldman, Professor Jonathan Turley, and then later on, Andy Biggs. It's wild, it's woolly, and you might even see a grown man cry. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get on with the video. Just want to remind you guys, it's Wednesday, and that means that tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, me and Ross Galloway, we're going back behind enemy lines. It's our weekly primetime live stream. We hope you guys come check it out. We'll be discussing the news of the day, a variety of topics, and we have fun while we're doing it. Again, that's 9 p.m. Eastern Time, behind enemy lines. Okay, we got all the nonsense and the grifting and stuff out of the way. Let's get to this video. This is from the House Judiciary Committee last week, discussing, and let me make sure I get this right, regulatory overreach in the federal government. This video has absolutely nothing to do with regulating federal overreach. Nothing at all. This is what Dan Goldman does. He hijacks committee meetings to talk about what he wants to talk about. And normally what he wants to talk about is Donald Trump. Here, he's going to be questioning Professor Jonathan Turley about hypocrisy, basically. He wants to try to catch Turley in a hypocritical moment. He's looking for that gotcha clip. He is farming for a clip for his own YouTube channel, believe it or not. And we'll get to that in a little bit as well. Dan Goldman wants to make Jonathan Turley look bad and make himself look good, as always. He's going to start questioning Turley about his biases towards Trump as it pertains to last session's discussion about a possible Biden impeachment. Let's get going here.
Mr. Turley, it's good to see you again. You are a frequent witness for a variety of different hearings for the Republicans. And in fact, you testified in the last Congress related to an impeachment investigation. And as I recall, you testified that you believed that the Republican investigation related to Hunter Biden's private foreign investments did merit an impeachment investigation against President Biden, I guess based on alleged meetings that the president had with Hunter's business partners, even though there was never any evidence presented that they discussed Hunter's businesses.
You see what's going on here already. Bad faith on top of bad faith on top of bad faith. First, he frames Turley as being a Republican biased witness, when the fact of the matter is Professor Turley has appeared before Congress many times as a witness for both sides of the aisle. Goldman then goes to characterize the frivolity, he thinks, of the prior investigation into the Biden family dealings, Biden Inc., the foreign dealings with Hunter Biden, Burisma, the 10% for the big guy and all that stuff. And he says it very flippantly that there was nothing to it. And we haven't gotten to a question yet, even though he's been talking for a little bit here. So let's see if there's a question in our future.
Business ventures, or that the president ever financially benefited from those ventures. Is that generally an accurate assessment? You didn't call for impeachment. You just suggested there should be an investigation, right?
Well, the purpose of that hearing was to determine whether there could be an impeachment inquiry and whether if
I'm just
those
asking what
steps-
you testified, Mr.
I'm trying to say
Well,
that.
no. Did
if-
you say directly that there was a legitimate basis to move forward with an impeachment investigation?
Yeah, what I said is that if those allegations were proven, they could amount to impeachable offenses.
All right. Well, let's focus for a second on some conduct that's been going on over the last few months.
Before we get to that, I want to just talk about what we just saw. Professor Turley tried to reframe the purpose of the hearing he appeared at and what his opinions were. Goldman, again, didn't like that. He's trying to put words in Turley's mouth over and over again, keeping with his bad faith framing. Now, moving forward, the bad faith will certainly continue.
Related to World Liberty Financial, are you familiar with that company?
No.
You're not familiar. Okay. Are you familiar at all with Donald Trump's interest in cryptocurrency?
No.
So you're not familiar with the fact that Donald Trump issued a meme coin 2 or 3 days before his inauguration?
I saw something of that in the press, but I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay. Well, let's hypothetically, it's not hypothetical, it's true. Donald Trump has a financial interest in a meme coin named after himself. And he recently offered a VIP White House tour and special reception to the meme coin's 25 biggest holders. After that announcement, the coin surged more than 50%. Does that seem like something that warrants investigation to you, Mr. Turley?
Well, there's no question that you can investigate that to see if there was any criminal conduct. I want to distinguish between that and the influence peddling scandal that the hearing was about in the Biden administration.
I'm not talking about that hearing. And I know you like to filibuster, Mr. Turley. No.
You see what's going on there? Goldman doesn't want to talk about the Biden impeachment thing, and you heard the laughter in the background there.
You're always making fun of me.
Pretty embarrassing moment for Goldman, and he's going to start losing it at this point. But Turley was brilliant in that answer, saying, yeah, you can investigate whatever you want, but it's a lot different than influence peddling, which is what Biden and Hunter and Biden Inc. were accused of here. This is talking about a coin that was done before he took office, before the inauguration, and now he's inviting those people who hold the coin in large sums to the White House. It's a promotional thing that happened beforehand. If you want to investigate that, Mr. Goldman, be my guest. Knock yourself out. See how far it gets you. See if there's wrongdoing. Go for it. But then again, the bad faith crops up again, because when Turley brings up the comparison between Biden and Trump in these two circumstances, Goldman's not interested at all in talking about Biden. I mean, enough people are out there talking about Biden these days anyway, right? About his feeble mind, feeble body. People are writing books about it now, and we were talking about it for years. Goldman doesn't want to focus on Biden. He wants to focus on Trump. And it brought a little mockery within the room. And this is where Goldman starts to crash out a little.
No, I'm happy to talk about that hearing. It was the biggest joke of an investigation. It was embarrassing that you call yourself a credible criminal professor, that you would actually think that there was any evidence that warranted an investigation.
And this is what people do when they crash out. They lash out. He started lashing out at Professor Turley, stuttering and stammering. Well, I can't believe that you're considering yourself a credible law guy, or whatever he was trying to say there. He's clearly triggered here, and his brain has been hijacked by this little bit of mockery. Let's see if he can get back on track here. I'm interested to see what Goldman does to try to come back from that little bit of an embarrassing moment there.
I'm focusing right now because it would seem to me, if you have any credibility, you would agree that auctioning off a White House tour for the highest investors in your own company would warrant either impeachment or criminal investigation. But let me move on, because
see what he did there? Creating yet another straw man, creating yet another, you must agree with me, or you're crazy, or you're wrong, or there's something wrong with you. He sets up these scenarios where he encourages, and that's a nice way of putting it, encourages you to agree with his point of view and his opinion, even though he's not offering any facts really to the witness here. He's just offering his own characterization of facts and his own opinion coloring those facts. But he expects the witness to accept that as gospel. Meanwhile, he's not willing to do the same when the witness, Professor Turley, gave his opinion about that previous Biden impeachment investigation in the same committee.
You're a total hypocrite.
So you see how we're setting up like a two-tier justice system? Seems like Democrats like to do that here. They like to think that their facts and their opinions are credible and gospel and should be taken as fact. And anybody else on the other side of the aisle, they lack credibility, they lack competency, they should be derided, they should be mocked. They're the ones that should be mocked, not Goldman, not in his worldview. It continues going downhill right here.
it gets worse.
It certainly does.
The president is a significant financial beneficiary of a company called World Liberty Financial, which issues a stable coin. Are you familiar with stable coins?
I'm not.
Okay, a stable coin is essentially a digital version of a dollar that can be used in transactions. Recently, the World Liberty, this organization which Donald Trump is a beneficiary of, entered into a deal with a UAE-backed company that would complete a $2 billion transaction with a company that has previously admitted to engaging in money laundering. And Donald Trump's company will now generate tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue from that transaction with a foreign government. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Foreign Emoluments Clause.
Yeah, right, buddy.
Would you say that based on that information, since apparently you only follow Hunter Biden's finances and not President Trump's, would you say that based on me providing you with that information, that would warrant an impeachment investigation?
So here's your first mistake here, Dan. You're the one giving out these facts and the information. Frankly, I wouldn't trust you if your tongue came notarized after this whole display that we saw. The lack of good faith in your assumptions, your straw man arguments, your incoherent spinning of facts with no specificity. Well, this UAE-backed business that we're not going to name is going along with this world financial thing that supposedly Trump is a part of for a $2 billion thingy that they're going to be doing, and Trump's going to make money. Do we know that Trump is directly involved in this? Is this something that's held in a blind trust? Is this something being managed by a Trump company? Is this something being managed by a Trump worker, a Trump family member? You're a little light on facts here. But Professor Turley, because you're a lawyer and you took such an interest in Hunter Biden, you saw that little snide remark, right? You'll certainly agree with me that this should be looked at just like you thought the other stuff should be looked at. Let's get Turley's response if we can.
Carson, when you say that we have to preserve our credibility, I think you would agree.
Can you answer the question, sir?
He's trying to answer the question. Your time has expired.
By the way, that is Andy Biggs, who was acting as chair at this point, interacting with Dan Goldman, letting him know that his 5 minutes are up and that he doesn't have a right to speak anymore.
I will allow the gentleman to answer the question.
Thanks. In the interest of credibility cited by the member, I'm not going to rely on the facts that you just gave me for the first time to render a judgment on it. I'm not opposed to investigations of alleged corruption. That was the point of the previous hearing. But
I'm stopping it here because this is where things go totally off the rails, and we should really come back after this break to see that whole thing in full. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. We're picking things back up with the start of Jonathan Turley's response to Dan Goldman's jumbled up fact pattern here that's light on facts. And we need to watch the whole thing play out because we're going to see the whole thing degrade. We need to pay particular attention about what's going on here. And I'll be sure to give you some instant replays because it all goes wrong here.
Congressman, when you say that we have to preserve our credibility, I think you would agree.
Can you answer the question, sir?
He's trying to answer the question. Your time has expired. I will allow the gentleman to answer the question.
Thanks. In the interest of credibility cited by the member, I'm not going to rely on the facts that you just gave me for the first time to render a judgment on it. I'm not opposed to investigations of alleged corruption. That was the point of the previous hearing. But the way to establish credibility is not, as you did, sir, just engage in personality attacks and personal innuendos. I'm happy to speak with you and to work with you about anything dealing with corruption in this building. I've been writing about that for 3 decades. I've been called as a witness for both the Democrats and Republicans dealing with that.
Well,
but the way to
I've only seen you as a witness.
Your time
for
has
the
expired, sir.
Republicans.
Your time has expired.
I'm happy to yield back.
Did you finish your question?
only that the way that we can actually
I
regain.
thought my time has expired.
Your time has expired. I said your time expired. He gets an opportunity to finish answering the question. You
Well,
attack.
I'd like to reclaim
No,
my time. since
you
he's
have no
answering a
additional
question.
time.
He's
You
answering
are out of order.
He's
Be
answering
quiet.
my question.
You are out of order.
I would.
So a lot's going on here. Just to recap, because I was taking a couple of notes here down on paper. Goldman interrupted Turley's response saying, is there an answer to my question coming? Can you just answer my question? Something like that. Then Biggs stepped in and said, your time has expired, and offered Professor Turley an opportunity to give his full answer, which he was doing, and pointing out not only his own credentials and how he has been bipartisan and appearing before Capitol Hill on both sides of the aisle when called, and said that we need to stop personality attacks. Then Goldman decides to interrupt again, saying, well, I've only seen you for Republicans. And this is when Biggs steps in again to tell him he's out of order and offers to let Turley continue to finish his answer. And that's where this argument broke out between Biggs and Goldman. And in the heat of this argument, both sides are going to forget what they said previously and just go at each other like rabid animals.
Like to reclaim
You cannot.
my time.
No, he's answering the question because you personally attacked him. I've said he can answer the question. I give that
How
courtesy.
did I personally attack him, Mr. Chairman?
You attacked his credibility. We're not going to get into
That's not a personal
we're
attack.
not getting into this right now. What we're going to
He's
get.
a witness. His
We're-
credibility
You're-
matters, sir.
You are out of order. You are out of order. You're done. You can't say anything else right now. You may finish answering your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that the one lesson from this exchange is that it's possible that we can restore credibility in this institution if we can just get beyond the personal attacks.
There were
And
no
the guys
personal attacks, Mr. Turley.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Interruption number 3. Dan Goldman doesn't know when to shut his mouth. Now, in the exchange between Biggs and Goldman, Biggs did say that Goldman personally attacked Professor Turley. I don't think that happened. I think he was just interrupting. It was that second interruption saying, well, I've only seen you testify for Republicans. Biggs may have thought that was a personal attack. I'm not so sure it was. It's just Goldman trying to get the last word, and it's part of the tantrum of the spoiled brat that we're seeing right now. And then they just overlap each other and argue. I didn't personally attack this person. Yes, you did. You attacked his credibility, but I can attack his credibility. And it just evolved as you saw. And when Turley deigned to get back to his point, which was originally about stopping personality attacks, which had nothing to do with the exchange between Biggs and Goldman. Then Goldman tries to interrupt again because he thinks he's being attacked. And like a spoiled little brat, cannot contain himself. The insolence of Dan Goldman is on full display. He's been told 3 times to stop interrupting Professor Turley and respect the chair's ruling. Let the witness answer your final question. And now that he's interrupted the 3rd time, the blow-up gets even bigger.
You are a witness.
Done.
Your credibility matters.
You, sir, you have lost your credibility with me. I gave that courtesy to everyone on this bench.
Mr. Chairman.
You ask a question. If they wanted to continue to answer beyond the time limit, I said, time's expired, you may answer the question. That's my routine. That's what I did today. You challenged him, asked him a question. You wanted an answer. Your time has expired. He is answering the question.
Mr. Chairman,
You don't like his answer. Because you don't like his answer, you want to shut him up.
Bingo.
Biggs nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. You don't like what Professor Turley's saying, so you're trying to interrupt, you're trying to obfuscate, you're trying to confuse, you're trying to muddy the record. This is a tactic that bad faith arguments and bad faith arguers do. This is what happens. He doesn't like what's coming out of Turley's mouth. He's trying to stop it at all costs, and he's doing so by breaking his rhythm, interrupting, making so that the transcript doesn't look clean and nobody ever knows what Professor Turley was trying to say in the first place. Luckily, we have video and we can look at this and see exactly what's going on. Andy Biggs right now is lecturing the spoiled brat about this whole situation. The baby ain't getting his way, says Biggs, and it certainly seems clear. Now Goldman is trying to couch the argument with Daddy Biggs in a parliamentary inquiry, a process by which a member of the committee can ask the chair a question about the rules and the procedures of the committee. He's now trying to hide his point that he was trying to make and failed to do in his tantrum in this form. And it's just going to make Biggs even more angry.
What's your inquiry?
My inquiry is when you offered when my time was up at 00 for him to answer the question, he went and answered the question. You then gavelled and said my time was up.
That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
You gavelled and
that's
said my
not a
time was up.
parliamentary
I would like
inquiry.
to know when
That's not a parliamentary
my time
inquiry.
is up and when he gets to continue answering.
That is not a parliamentary inquiry. Your parliamentarian is about to tell you that's not a parliamentary inquiry.
He actually disagrees. He thinks it is a parliamentary.
That's not a parliamentary inquiry.
This is the equivalent of stamping your feet, jumping up and down and saying, "That's not fair. You're not playing fair. What's going on here?" And he might as well have thrown his binky against the wall, thrown his bottle on the ground, taken his blankie, put it over his head, and just kept brooding with arms folded in front of Biggs. Absolutely pathetic. Dan Goldman actually thought he was going to outsmart Biggs here with this parliamentary inquiry. Nice, big, flowery words from Goldman. But he's just doing the same thing over and over again. He's trying to get his way. It's a tantrum. This is a member of Congress. This is supposed to be someone that's very well educated, an attorney, heir to a clothing empire, very well to do. Yet this is how you act in the halls of Congress? Really?
Why? I'm asking for the process question, the process question as to when my time is up, which you allowed him to answer the question. You then gavelled and said my time is expired.
Yeah.
And then you then offered him to answer the question again.
And that is not what happened. And we're going to go to an instant replay to show you that Dan Goldman interrupted twice. Professor Turley didn't get his full answer out twice. And then the chairman allowed Professor Turley to continue with the ending of his response.
Congressman, you say that we have to preserve our credibility. I think you would agree.
Can you answer the question, sir?
He's trying to answer the question. Your time has expired. I will allow the gentleman to answer the question.
I'm happy to speak with you and to work with you about anything dealing with corruption in this building. I've been writing about that for 3 decades. I've been called as a witness for both the Democrats and Republicans dealing with that.
Well,
but the way to
I've only seen you as a witness.
Your time
for
has
the
expired, sir.
Republicans.
Your time has expired.
I'm happy to yield back.
Did you finish your question?
only that the way that we can actually regain.
I thought my time has expired.
Your time has expired. I said your time expired. He gets an opportunity to finish answering the question.
And there you have it right on video. Dan Goldman is completely wrong here. He has misinterpreted what happened. And in his fit of rage and tantrum, he's getting it wrong still.
Which he already had done.
No, sir. Let us, if we were to watch.
You did it based on accusations that I was personally attacking him, which I was not.
Excuse me. Not only are you out of order, you're being incredibly rude. Here's the deal. I gave everybody the same courtesy. You didn't like where he was going. You began interrupting again, but your time was expired. He was trying to answer the question. You didn't like the answer.
That is false. I'm happy to have this answer.
No, that's what happened.
I didn't like the accusation that I was personally attacking him. His credibility.
I didn't say that till the third round when you interrupted. And you continue to interrupt. You continue to be out of order.
And then I asked you,
you are out of order.
I asked you, what am I personally attacking? And you said his credibility, and he is a witness. That's credibility matters.
You're out of order.
Those of you out there with small children, adolescents, preteens, you know this routine. This is the argument of a child trying to get their way, replaying the events in their own twisted head in order to make themselves look right and everybody else look wrong. Dan Goldman is trying to be a victim here. He's a victim of the rules. He's a victim of the Republicans. He's a victim of Jonathan Turley. He's a victim of the world. I don't know at this point. But he's trying his best to reframe and rewrite history that we just saw on video and on replay. So, obviously, you guys are discerning observers of politics. You know the deal here. Dan Goldman, he's just a complete buffoon.
You are so far out of order.
Well, you are not conducting this in a fair and equitable way.
Sure I am.
Because
everybody got the same courtesy. You asked a question, they're going to finish answering. Everybody got that same courtesy. You interrupted him while he was giving the answer. That's why you got gavelled.
And then
you got interrupted.
And then you said
you interrupted. That's why.
And then you said my time is up, which is when you would go to the next person.
I think we're all Andy Biggs right here. If you're not, putting, face palming right now, if you're not just totally frustrated and exasperated with the child from Brooklyn, then maybe you need to watch the whole video over again to understand the level of frustration that reasonable people feel when confronted with a buffoon like this. Maybe you have the patience of a saint if you're not in the same frame of mind that Andy Biggs is right now, having watched the majority of this video. And if you are, I salute you. I don't have unlimited patience. I don't have infinite amount of time to listen to Dan Goldman try to make himself right. And frankly, I don't think that anyone should tolerate someone like Dan Goldman wasting taxpayer time like this just because he wants to be right. Being a right fighter in government and a partisan right fighter in government basically means that you're there to waste everyone's time and that you're only there for your own self-adulation, self-glorification. Look at me. Look at how smart I am. Look at how I own the other side. It ain't working anymore. Not in this era.
I gave the same courtesy to every member on your side of the aisle as I gave over here. When your time was expired, 5 minutes expired. If they were in the middle of answering the question, I let it go. Now we can talk about that round and round all you want. That's what I did. That's what I do.
Well, I look forward to you continuing to do that.
Yeah, well, good. And I look forward to you being in order next time. So, Mr. Turley, you may continue to answer the question that he so much doesn't want to hear.
I've never been so certain in saying I'm happy to move on.
Me too. But before we move on, I do have a few more points to make. And one of the last points I want to make here is just to prove to you how much of a buffoon Dan Goldman is with being a political narcissist, being all about himself, making himself right, being a right fighter, trying to get that gotcha moment and own the Republicans. Dan Goldman has his own YouTube channel. And on that YouTube channel is part of this interaction that we just saw. 3 minutes and 10 seconds worth, by the way, if you're looking at the picture that I just put up. Dan Goldman didn't even put up the entire 5 minutes of time that he had with Professor Turley. He cherry-picked what he wanted his constituents to see. 3 minutes and 10 seconds of what I played for you was an over 10-minute clip. 30% of the exchange. That's what Dan Goldman wanted to show, because the other 70% made him look like a petulant child, made him look like a toddler having a tantrum, stamping up and down, trying to make himself look good, trying to make himself right when he was clearly wrong. That's the big picture here, folks. That's why I want to showcase these buffoons to you. Not only to expose them for who they are and what they are, but to show you the shell game, the rigged game they play at every station of their life, whether it be their own public relations, their own agenda. You see it out there, and I hope you see it as we pointed out over and over and over again. Dan Goldman, this Trump-addled buffoon, this TDS-infected buffoon, is not only trying to go after Trump with specious arguments and very little facts, as we saw with Professor Turley, but he's doing it in a way that he wants everyone to see that he's the one doing it. He's the one leading the charge. The narcissism here is real. And the fact that when people pierce that narcissistic facade of his, like that moment when they started laughing at him when he said, "Oh, let's not talk about the Biden impeachment investigation." When things like that happen, he gets embarrassed. He lashes out. He becomes very, very ineffective in speaking. He stammers, he stutters, he loses facts, and he turns into this mush of a buffoon that we can all point and laugh at. But then he also gets angry, he gets rude, he gets mean, he lashes out at people. And when you put it all together, the ignorance, the pride, the anger, it adds up into a hybrid buffoon that very few people should ever take seriously. Or at least that's just my opinion. I'm getting flustered here myself talking about this guy because he drives me up a wall. And this is just my opinion about this guy, by the way. I like to think I backed it up with some facts, unlike what he did in Congress. Let me know what you think in the comments about this guy. Do you think that Dan Goldman is a buffoon of the first order and just loses it all the time and this has become his calling card? Or do you think I'm totally off base and Dan Goldman totally owned the Republicans in this? Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. I'm looking forward to talking about this video with you in the comments. And later tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, when we go behind enemy lines, where we'll be also talking about all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.